everybody, and welcome to our YouTube live today. This is Relationship Builders Forum. I hope you all are doing great. You all are fine. And today we have a live conversation called Love and Limits, the Art of Establishing Boundaries in Your Relationship. Wow. I'm so looking forward to this because we have an amazing guest who will be joining us today. And for the benefit of those who are joining us for the first time, my name is Amara.
And my name is Gospel.
And together we co-host on Relationship Builders Forum, a forum where we love to empower singles and married with, relationship matters. And today we'll be talking about boundaries in relationship.
Definitely, we are talking about love and limits. And we know love is a sweet thing, is an experience everyone wants to get involved in. In fact, my wife and I, we've been in love for some time now before we got married, and we've been enjoying it. Now, I want to take the conversation to another angle. If I am in love, are there some limits, or is it a free flow, do whatever you like, and all of those? And we've been receiving questions from our audience, from our fans, and they want to know, what are the boundaries I can set in my relationship? Is it that once I'm married, no more boundaries? And today we've got someone who loves to talk about boundaries in relationship. In fact, he has talked about it over time. The other time we had an event, I think he mentioned a bit about it, and we said, don't worry, we'll bring you back to delve more into this.
Yes. I want to say that, like you said, love is beautiful, but a lot of things can jeopardize, love. And sometimes people just go into a relationship without necessarily setting what I call healthy boundaries. And today we just want to have some conversation around boundaries, because sometimes people don't know, should there be any boundaries in relationship at all?
Some people don't even know what we mean by boundaries.
I think we'll get it all unpacked today. So without further ado, I just want us to welcome our guest today. No other person. He's a pastor as well, and I will just allow him to do the introduction. He is our brother Ofoegbu. You're warmly welcome, sir.
Hi, Gospel. Hi, Amara. So good to see you guys again. You guys are looking as lovely and as beautiful as ever. I want to thank you for having me. Glad to be here. My name is Ofoegbu. I'm a pastor, serial entrepreneur, others, I don't know. I wear multiple hats. And what I'm passionate about is about getting more and more people to learn how to be the best version of themselves by learning how to follow Jesus, live like Jesus, be like Jesus, so that you can become like Jesus and then live like Jesus, because Jesus is the perfect standard. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to having these robust discussions with you all about boundaries. Look, I don't know how long we have for this. I think it's about an hour plus. There is no way we are going to cover everything. And my hope is that people from these will go out and look for these materials and learn them and practice them, because boundaries are like muscles. If you use them with practice, you get better. If you don't use them, they atrophy and then you struggle. So, so let's bring it up.
Before we delve into, I just want to welcome everyone. So those who are joining, if you can, please just put on the chat. Let us know where you're dialing in from. It would be great to have you all. And if you've got questions as we delve into this conversation, please do put them on the chat and we can pick that up. So let's commence the conversation.
Before we do, I also want to say that this is an important topic that someone out there may want to be involved in, and you are here. I just want to ask you to share this link with your network, with your friends, with anyone you know who will benefit from this conversation, because it's not every time you get an expert like this coming on board.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's just start. Let's dive right in. So let's first of all, unpack the definition. What are boundaries? When we talk about boundaries, what do we mean? And I want you to go as far as you can. So you can talk about it in the context of, dating, and also within the context of marriage as well. Yes, please.
Yes. So boundaries are the mental, physical, emotional, spiritual limits we put on ourselves to help us distinguish what is our responsibility and what is another person's responsibility is a critical aspect of being in a relationship. Because in relationship, especially now when we say relationship, let's be clear, we're speaking about love relationships, so like friendships, dating, marriage. And we're not talking about relationship with your boss now, or relationship with your kinsmen or society that you belong to. So we're talking about the love relationship where two people have freely decided to come in and say, let's be friends, or let's date, or let's be husband and wife. So in that setting, the critical aspect of that relationship is freedom, is choice, and then a personal responsibility. If I have chosen to be your friend, and I've chosen to bind myself to be responsible for certain things because of this choice that I've made. So it is important, therefore, to know in the idea, concept of boundaries, so that you can say, okay, babe or friend or husband or wife, this is what I'm responsible for. And because I'm responsible for this, these are the limits that I've set for myself. These are things that I would allow. And these are the things that I will not allow. Or these are my no's. I like to, the fundamental word for boundary is no, N-O. These are the no's, because sometimes when we enter into relationship, we are under this temptation to always say yes, 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 yes. Do you want to go out for dinner? Yes. Do you want to wear this? Yes. Do you want to do this with me? Yes. Do you want to see my mom? Yes. Should my father come? Yes. Should my mother-in-law come? Yes. And we think that because we love, we should always be saying yes, because that's what the person who loves does. No. Part of what somebody does, who loves, does is no, N-O. And the reason here is why it is important. No defines you as an individual. No says, this is who I am. And it is this person who I am that has chosen to love you, that has chosen to be your friend. So if you don't know my nose, I don't know how I feel, but this English is going to be hard to say, but if you don't know my nose, that means you really don't know me. If you really want to know me, you've got to know my nose and be willing to respect, accept, and live with me with my nose. If I am always yes, 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 then I don't exist anymore. Then you don't really know who I am, because you don't know my boundaries. You don't know where I end and where you begin. And I don't know where you end or where you begin, where you end and where I begin. So that's what boundaries are. There are limits I set on me, where I end and where you begin. They are the things that allow us to be able to say, I can define myself, you can define yourself, and with your definition and my definition, we have now chosen to form a relationship and work together with that in place. Otherwise, we actually don't have a relationship. We have I don't know what it is. We have something else. We have, somebody said it could be a codependent relationship. It could be a place where things are just one person exists and the other person has disappeared. And that's not what it's meant to be. Two are supposed to become one, not one is supposed to overwhelm the other one and one disappears, So you are never meant to, this is it. You are never meant to disappear in a relationship. Let me repeat that.
Wow.
You were never meant to disappear in a relationship. If you're in a relationship where it feels like you become invisible, you don't exist anymore. The way I describe it is this, that when two people come together, a third entity emerges. That third entity is the combination of you and him, or you and her. So there is no way we can see that third entity if we cannot fully define who you are. We don't know your boundaries. We don't know your unique variables and your unique entities. So let me start there. So those are what boundaries, and these are why that's why it is important in relationships.
Wow. I love how you have defined it. Where do I stop? Where do you begin? I love
Exactly.
that. However, because it is really important that we tread softly, because someone can say, this is who I am. And who you are is colored by your culture, colored by, certain stereotype, colored by, because we are definitely who we are based on how we've been acculturated. So how then do you define your boundaries? Because I think this is really important, because if I come and say, this is who I
Yes.
am, then who I am
Yes.
is basically all
All the baggages.
all the baggage of my
Yes.
past.
Yes.
And that's who I
Yes.
am. And I'm saying these are my no's, and these are my, and maybe those no's are actually
Red flags.
they are red flags. So
Absolutely.
how do we then define our boundaries? How do we say this is who I am? Where does this stem
Yes.
from?
Perfect. That's an excellent question. Part of understanding boundaries also is understanding the other person's boundary. So you cannot say this is who I am and who you are is negatively affecting the other person, and then you say, but this is who I am and I stick that way. That means you don't understand boundaries and you don't respect boundaries. So this is the reason why it comes when two people then come together. That's why when two people come together, there's that initial clash, and there's that initial, like you said, we are coming, I've been acculturated, there's a background that I have. Let me give a classic example. There's a way that I talk. I speak in negatives. I don't know if you understand what I mean by speaking in negatives. Okay, yes. How do I say? It's like you don't. It's like you don't like the food. It's like you don't like how I dress. It's like you don't want to call me. It's like you don't want to visit my parents. That is speaking in negatives. It's just, but this person is just maybe that's how the mom spoke to her. That's how the dad spoke to her. That's or him. That's how the father spoke. That's how the sister. That's how they speak in their family. So you then come into a relationship with somebody who always speaks in positives, and who loves to be spoken to in positives. Babe, I would love you to call me. Oh, babe, I would love you to visit our family. Oh, babe, I would love you to go out with me. Or, that is speaking in positive, not speaking in negative. And you now say, hey, that's how I am, I'll continue to speak in negative. The person will now say to you, you are hurting me. So now this is where this whole issue of understanding, okay, you are hurting me with the way you talk, and I would love if you could start practicing speaking more positively, especially when you're speaking to me about certain things. Then you now have to start asking yourself that, okay, am I willing to take ownership of that action? It is that statement, the way you talk is you, but are you willing to do something about it? Because boundaries create, again, responsibility. You are responsible. So you cannot say that it is the way your husband positioned himself or the way your girlfriend positioned herself. That's what made you to be talking the way you are talking. No, you own that way of talking and recognize that behavior is causing a problem in this relationship. We're not coming closer because of how I speak. We're actually pulling apart because of how I speak. Boundaries then mean, yes, that's who you are, but that means you have the ability to start working on yourself to change and get better if you care about that relationship. So boundaries is about ownership. It's about saying, yes, I own it. This is the way I talk. But now, because I choose to talk this way, I can choose to speak differently. And why am I choosing to speak differently? Because I care about somebody else. I care about this relationship, and I care that this way that I am and this way that I behave is not helping us, it's hurting us. So it's not an excuse to say, I'm not going to change. In fact, it is because it is within your property line, it is within your boundaries, it is now your responsibility to do something about it.
I hear what you're saying there. I hear what you're saying there, because initially you talked about saying no, no, no. And naturally, one would think that because I love you, I don't have to resist doing things the way you want me to do them. For instance, you want me to spend beyond my budget. and I need to go the extra mile to prove to you that I really, really love you, I'll go and take a loan that will take me maybe 5 years to pay. I wouldn't be able to say no to you because I love you. So how do you balance that? Because obviously someone could think you're saying no to me because you don't really love me. If you love me,
you take the risk.
I would hear yes from you.
Okay, let me make sure I understand the question you're asking. The question
Okay,
you're
my
asking here.
question is, where do we
Okay.
balance the, I want to put it in a way that I don't misconstrue my thoughts. How do you balance the fact that your no is a sign? How do you prove that it's a sign of love and not a proof that you don't want to make sacrifices for me? That's why you're saying no.
Yeah. Okay, no, so that's a great question. So your no, so and maybe I should have prefaced this by saying that, look, when you say no, you are not saying no with a sledgehammer. You are like, babe, I love you, I care about you, I care about this relationship, and I want to be with you. But this thing you are asking of me, it violates a specific value that I have. And here's how there's this value that I have that I care about, and then you have this conversation with this person so that I see if the person would hear it and say, you know what, I respect that. So their boundaries is about hearing no, it's also about respecting no. It's not just about saying no, 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 because it's also about hearing another person's no and say, okay, I respect that. So if somebody says, oh, can you want to overspend, we want to blow our budget for something, and the other person says, no, I'm not comfortable about us blowing our budget because of this, and this. The question is, are you hearing also, is your yes or the thing you want, are you able to step back and say, okay, I'm hearing this person's no? Now, your no is or your yes is another person's no. So you now need to ask yourself. So you see, you come into this place where you are having a conversation. I was speaking to some people recently. I said, intimacy is intimacy. We now begin to come to a place where we are asking, okay, babe, help me understand why this is this way with you. It's not about who is wrong or who is right. It's about coming to a place of understanding amongst both of us. But we cannot know that until somebody says, I don't want this. The problem in many relationships is that it is no, but you don't even voice the no. You now acquiesce, you say yes and go along because you don't want to upset somebody. And, somebody said any yes that is an internal no is a false yes. It's not a yes. Yes, it's not if this is a no for you, voice is one of the laws of boundaries, actually. It's called the law of visibility. Your boundaries should be known. You should be visible. You say, I don't like us spending money like this, and then the person will now say, okay, you know what? Let me understand why. Let me respect it. And we have a conversation. We have I don't want to use the word negotiation, but we have a conversation. We have a back and forth. And that's how we begin to grow intimacy and we come to what? See, when we practice boundaries, what eventually happens is oneness. What eventually happens is oneness. Because after a while, you begin to appreciate each other's uniqueness. You begin to absorb the uniqueness of some because you can see benefits the relationship. You begin to drop your own, and you the relationship begins to take on a uniqueness. You and Amara, for example, gospel, let me put it this way. There are certain things now that when you first got married, for example, something will happen, you pick up the phone and you call Amara and say, Amara, what do you think about this? And then after a while, and she voices her no's to you, she voices her yes to you, you listen. Maybe initially you said, I don't really agree with that, you did the way you want. and then the outcome comes out, and then it happens the second time. 3 years, 4 years later, you don't even need to pick the phone to ask Amara what she thinks about it. The decision that gospel then makes is no longer then a gospel decision. It is now a gospel and Amara decision, because over time you've understood the uniqueness of and the boundaries. And because you want to preserve a relationship and cause the relationship grow, it begins to transform you and you become a better gospel, and vice versa is happening to her as well. She becomes better in that area. So it is not about you winning and standing and not changing. It's about you defining who you are, clarifying who you are, and both of you now begin to work towards this third entity that will emerge over time, because we are now what's the word, growing and transforming.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's amazing.
Before we carry on, I just want to, because our audience as well, they've been chiming in on the chats. A lot of people joined in from UK, the US, and also Nigeria. One of the things, just to do a recap of some of the things you've been saying, our Foundation for Family Affairs has also reiterated: if you do not know my no, it means you don't know me.
Yes.
And that was really, really profound. Yes. The other thing was also around, you said you were never meant to disappoint in a relationship. I think that was just touching on something you said earlier. The other one is something you said, which I really picked. Any yes that is an internal no.
That's
The
internal
false,
no. It's a
the
false
false
yes.
yes.
That's powerful.
That is really, really powerful. But let me just sort of kind of shed a bit more light, and maybe you can even comment on this, because I think that there's quite a lot of responsibility that lies with parenting as well, in terms of teaching, teaching people how to set boundaries. Sometimes when children are traumatized, they tend to do two things. And mostly, the first thing is that they're trying to soothe themselves. And in some instances, it leads to addiction, but that's not what we're talking about today. The second aspect is where they decide that they get this message that they're not good enough, because maybe parents has told them over time that they are not good enough. Hence, they are trying to be people pleasing out there, and you find a lot of workaholics as well at work, doing way more and beyond,
and taking responsibilities
beyond
their capacity,
being nice to everyone, saying yes to everything. So I don't know if that is something that, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, because I think it is really important. A lot of mental illness have been, is stemming from this whole energy of I feel needed, or I feel wanted, or I want someone to endorse me. I want to be validated by somebody else.
Maybe we can put it this way as a question: where do we create the culture of boundaries? And if we don't say yes, if we don't say no, obviously from what you've said, it's coming from our background. And how does that impact on our relationships, and including our marriage?
Yes, we don't say no, or we don't hear no. Not hearing no is a boundary problem, because you just want to force your opinion and your way through. And so somebody says, I'm not comfortable with that. Why are you not comfortable with it now? What's wrong with you? You begin to harass the person, because the person does not see the world the same way you see the world, or does not feel the way, instead of trying to, lovingly and gently understanding their point of view. The root cause of this is from upbringing. It's from upbringing. And this is part of the reason why, I remember when I started getting to read up on this and understand it, I just realized how my own upbringing affected me. I tend to be a people pleaser. I don't like to, and the opposite is also the truth. The people who are anti-people pleaser, they don't like to please anybody. It's also the upbringing problem, and a part of my wanting to be a people pleaser was because coming from a family where parents struggled in their marriage and struggled in their relationship, I didn't want my dad to be upset with me, and I didn't want my mom to be upset with me. So I'm saying yes to dad, and when dad wants something, I'm saying yes to mom. When what mom wants is also opposite of what dad, So so as you grow up, you are not able to say your no and say, this is why it is a no, and then hold firm on it. Of course, willing to hear another side point of view that could change your mind, but at least you have a stand and a reason for that. So parents play a huge role in getting their in helping their children develop the muscles of boundaries. It is, and it starts from a little child. When a little child says, "Mommy, I don't want to eat that vegetable," the easy route is, I said you should eat it. Do it because mommy said so. That's the easy route. And you do it the first time, and so the child eats it because mommy said so. And then next week, the child eats it because mommy said so. And then 3 months, 5 months, 1 year, 5 years, the child is eating vegetables simply because mommy said so. When the child goes out into the world and somebody tries to touch him or her in an inappropriate way, and he says, "No, I don't want it," he says, "I do it because I said so." Having been conditioned by mommy for this long, eating vegetable is a good thing, don't get me wrong. But when that child is saying no, it's in the process of defining who they are. And that's where mommy or daddy must help. I know you want the child to eat vegetable, but you also want the child to develop the muscles of their boundaries and of their uniqueness, to know what is unacceptable. So you have to balance it. You have to be able to say, "Look, here's why the vegetable is good." Okay, you tell me why you don't want to eat the vegetable. You have that conversation with them. And then sometimes you let them not eat the vegetable, and then let them experience the consequences of not eating the vegetable, and then after a while, they also learn that in society, their actions have consequences. That's the other thing that happens the way we bring up the kid. Mommy says, clean your room. The child doesn't clean the room. Then mommy goes and cleans the room. Wash your plates. The child doesn't wash the plates. Then mommy goes and washes the plates. Don't do your homework. Don't turn on the TV. They don't do their homework. They don't turn on the TV. Daddy then goes and helps them and does their homework. Then they now get married, and the wife is now saying, "Why are you acting like this? Stop this! And then the boy turns and said, "Why are you not even forgiving me?" Why are you not forgiving? Why are you being so wrong? Why are you being so difficult? After all, it's not just where did that come from? Because for 20 years or 15 years, if they will not do what they are told, and mommy will forgive and go and do it, and daddy will forgive and go and do it, And so this person has grown up with a behavior and a mindset that you don't recognize that actions have consequences, which is rule number 1 in boundaries. You are responsible for the problems you create. If you create a problem, it is you that should solve it, not another person. Another person should not go and be solving the problems in your property. If the grass cannot be growing in your property and I'm the one coming to cut your grass, how does that work? I'll leave my own property and be coming to clear your own mess. So that's where parenting is so critical. And I remember when I started studying this, I realized that if you are a parent, you have to study up on boundaries and be able to be teaching your kids, recognize every teaching moment to help them learn and practice developing the muscles of their boundaries. Learning to put
I
limits.
really appreciate how you're saying all of this. It sounds so sweet. But let me look at it from a practical standpoint. You said you are responsible for your actions, for the choices you've made. Now, in a relationship, your spouse has made some choices that could impact the relationship.
Yeah.
Natural thing is for you to step in and solve that problem so that the relationship will work. What are you saying? Are you saying, for instance, let me still use money as an example.
Mhm.
He or she has borrowed so much, And now the impact of that is telling on the family. But the other person is making so much money to be able to sort out the debt.
Yeah.
Do you say he should not step in, should let her take care of whatever choice she has made?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Definitely yes, please.
Let me take my time to try and explain it. Yes. Boundaries is about where do I end and where do you begin? Who is responsible for the problem? A problem without an owner will never be solved. Okay. If somebody, so let me put it this way. Let's use that example that you gave. Somebody is spendthrift, not saving, consuming, and just destroying value. And the other person is creating value, and the value that you're creating, they're using it to solve this problem that this person is creating. Between the two of them, who has a problem?
They won't spend it destroying value.
The person that has a problem is the one solving the problem another person is creating. That's the person that has a problem, because he has taken ownership of something that they did not create. And so the owner of the problem has the problem. Now, the person causing the problem is not taking ownership of the problem. So clearly, it could go to Bahamas, go to Las Vegas, blow the money, and then pick up the phone and call and say, babe, can you please send 10,000 naira? Where I am, I've run out of money. And then you wire 10,000 naira. You know, it is you that has the problem. What you should do as the spouse of this person or the friend of this person is to create a scenario where he can start having a problem for the actions he's taking. And it could simply be, the money is in the bank account, but I cannot wire the money to you. Or you create a consequence. You can say to the person, you know what? If you do A, B, C, D, E, if you go and get you guys are the therapists, yeah, if you go and get counseling,
betting, gambling, gambling,
exactly, gambling. If you go and get therapy, if you go and get counseling, if you go into rehab, I'm available to help, but I'm not going to take any action until you have taken a step, until you have owned the problem to a certain. I'm here to help you if you own the problem. I'm here to help you as you take ownership of the problem, but I'm not going to, quote unquote, solve this problem of your debt or solve this problem. Oh, they're about to arrest me. The people are about to come and let them arrest you, and then, see, somebody says to me when I talk it this way, they say, you are being harsh. I thought you're a grace preacher. I thought you preach on grace and you preach on love and all this kind of stuff. And I say to them, this is how you practice love. The problem is that our definition of love is actually kind of warped.
Love is tough.
Love is tough. Somebody defined love this way. He said, love is seeking the good of another person, the highest good of another person. And then the person said, do you know that the highest good of another person, that person may not believe it is good for them? The highest good for someone, the person himself or herself may not know that thing is their highest good. But because you have experience, because you have been responsible, etc. So if you are seeking the highest good, the person will turn around and say, you hate me. Children, parents of teenagers face this all the time. Mommy, you hate me. Daddy, you hate me, because you are seeking what is you're trying to encourage them to take their studies serious, trying to encourage them to, read their books, go to the library, instead of just playing all the time. And they say you hate them. But that's what is in their best interest. So, no, as a spouse, as somebody that is in a relationship with someone, if you care about that relationship and you want that relationship to work, your primary goal, if you have someone who is not responsible and not taking responsibility, is not to come in as the white knight or the white princess and try to deliver the person, is to create a scenario that will allow the person to take ownership and responsibility for their action and try to start taking steps to resolve it. That's boundaries.
I mean, what you've shared is spot on. And I think some of our audience as well is just, I mean, one of the comments or the statements that really stuck out to me is, a problem without an owner will never be solved.
Will never be solved, yes.
So someone needs to take responsibility, because I think in relationships sometimes, in the bid to solve a problem, you enable the behavior. You enable that person to keep doing or going in that path.
Can I say something there? Yes. It's called codependence. I used to think codependent means that the person is depending on me. Codependent means me that is coming in to solve the problem. I am codependent. I feel needed in coming to solve a problem I did not cause. It creates a sense of value to me. I feel like, okay, I'm doing something, I'm helpful. This person will go and gamble, and then I will now come and I'll pay for the debt and bring you home. This person is an alcoholic, will go and drink, I will now go. Then after all, it's my husband, after all, it's my wife, that's codependency. It creates a sense of you are valuable. So you now need this person to be in a mess to continue to remain valuable. It's called a codependent relationship. In fact, research has shown that that 90-something% of the addicts, people who are in continuous either alcoholism or drugs or whatever kind of addict, is because in their circle are people who need them to remain addicts to stay relevant. So they are not helping them out of it, because you say, I don't want to be mean, I don't want to be tough, but you are not realizing that it is you needing to be relevant. No, take the person into rehab and let rehab.
That's a dysfunction in itself, because when you feel the need to be needed, or you feel that relevance, it's also a dysfunction. Although it's not an addiction, but it's a different kind of addiction. It's a different kind of dysfunction.
It is a different kind of, because if you remove, I was counseling somebody and I told this person, I said, why don't you've complained about this man, this. I said, okay, why don't you just walk away from the whole thing? He needs me. I was like, no, you need him. That's why you don't want to walk away. You need him. Because if you enter into a relationship where you are with a non-dysfunctional person who is functioning properly, you realize that you actually don't have much to do anymore. You now have to start taking responsibility for your own areas of growth and development, which you have abandoned for years because you are in a codependent relationship. It's a major boundary problem.
Brilliant stuff you've highlighted there.
Wow.
Let's say this is just general approach to relationship, and let's look at it this way: that you're in a marital relationship and you are a believer, a Christian who believes that this marriage should be for life until death do us part. And your definition of love is that love is patient. You have to tolerate the weaknesses in your spouse, and long suffering. You have to suffer long. You don't just walk away, because if you really love this guy or this lady, even though there are weaknesses that are violating your values or principles, you have to stay in there. And that's what sometimes we are told in church, we are told in religious circle, culturally, stay in there. And now you're going the opposite, saying, maybe I'm just preempting that you're saying. How do you balance that?
Mhm.
Yes. So I think this is one of the questions she has sent to me earlier, and I'll just take it from there. Say, are boundaries important in marriage? And I'm saying boundaries are critical in marriage. Because oftentimes we enter into marriage thinking that the fact that you are now husband or you are now wife, or somebody is now your husband, somebody is now your wife, you have suddenly gotten some kind of Midas control over them, that you can say certain things and then they will just be, act in a certain way, that you can control their behavior and control how they act or what they do. The fact is that I think one of the biggest things that I learned when I started understanding this boundaries issue is that I can't control anybody. I can't make somebody do anything. The only person I can control, the only person I can make do anything is myself. So in boundaries in marriage, that's why I talk about boundaries as the limits you put on yourself, the places you will not go because that's not your property, the things you will not do because that's not within your sphere of control. So what are some of the things that are outside of your power? It is outside of your power, for example, to change the attitude of your spouse. You can pray to God, but you can, if your spouse is pouty, or is down and behaves in funny ways, you really can't change that attitude. You can change yours. You can say, I'm going to keep a positive attitude here, but you cannot make your spouse keep a positive attitude. You cannot change their actions. You cannot make your spouse grow up. If your spouse is, behaving, like a child, you cannot say, grow up. If you can shout grow up every day till the cows come home, you will not make the person grow up. It's out of your power. But you can grow up.
Mhm.
It's within your power to grow up in that scenario, in that situation. You cannot stop them from exhibiting troublesome habits or character flaw or wherever it is. You can't force them to come home on time for dinner, for example. You can't force them to do homework with the kids if they don't want to do the homework. You can ask for it, but you cannot make them do it. So when you understand that you don't have control, so the question now is, what do you have control over? You have, like we said earlier, you have control over your own actions. You have control over, you can't confess to your spouse the ways you behave that are triggering bad behaviors in him. You can say, I'm going to make these changes. You can change how you talk. You can say, I'm okay, you know what, I'm not going to nag. Instead, I'm going to be more polite when I'm making my request. So these are the things within your power to make changes. But one of the things that you can make changes on is if somebody says you are not responsible for someone's action, but you are responsible to them. Now, what does that mean? It means that it is in your power to communicate clearly. I was sharing this with a few people yesterday. You must communicate clearly. You say, babe, when you do this, and this is how it makes me feel. And I would like you to do it differently. I would like you to do something else, because if you care about this relationship, this thing you are doing is hurting. I love you, but this thing you are doing is hurting me and hurting my relationship. The question would then be, what do you then do if the person does not agree, if the person does not change? And that's where you will say, if you don't take an action to make if you don't do something to change, here's what I am going to have to do.
Mm.
And now the person now has a choice to make. Do they, because they love this relationship and they love you, would they make a change or start working towards a
Doesn't it
change?
seem like a threat? Sorry for butting in there, but doesn't it seem like you're threatening the
Exactly.
person?
Does it not seem like you are creating a consequence for their action. That you are seeing, you are creating a consequence for their action. Yes, you are creating. And I tell people, I said, I think one of the questions is, when do you start? This is one of the things you should start very early in your relationship. This is something you should start very early in your marriage. That you are not going to take, I love you, I care about you, but if you have negative behavior that is hurting us and hurting our relationship, there's consequence. The reason is because many people have grown up without consequence. Like I said, go and clean, Johnny, go and clean your room, go and clean your room. You don't go. Johnny does not go. Mommy goes and clean the room for Johnny. Wash your clothes, wash your clothes. He doesn't wash the clothes. Mommy goes and washes the clothes for them. So they've grown up thinking that that's the way the world is. What are you even making a big deal about this issue? What's the point? There's no big deal here. Calm down, Joe. No, there's a big deal. So you've got to.
There's a comment on people, the just okay, to follow on what you're saying. Yes. Someone is saying, I believe that while you shouldn't control or try to change anyone, a positive attitude is of great influence that can lead to change, speaking from experience. Yes. So just so that you can put that in context as well.
No, absolutely. And this is where a lot of what I'm talking about, this, so let's be, we are not nagging, we are not shouting, we are not being, you've got to, that's why, those are the things in your control, those are the things in your property line, those are the things within your boundaries. You are not going to come out and, be carrying and be shouting and screaming. That's not how to have these conversations that we are talking about. It is a calm, firm, positive attitude. I really love you and I care about you. And I know you love me and I know you love this relationship. But this thing you are doing is hurting us. In fact, one of the ways I tell people to do this is to ask the person, so this thing you are doing is hurting us. Babe, let me ask you, what do you think you can do to change so that things will get better? And then allow the person to open up and say, because some people may not realize that they are hurting you. And this is where you being vulnerable in expressing your hurt and the pain that you are feeling. You say, oh, you mean when I don't come home on time like this, or I don't tell you that I'm going to be late, that this is how you feel? I'm so sorry. So you know what? Every time I'm running late, I'm going to give you at least a 2-hour notice. So even if it doesn't happen, so someone who cares about your relationship can take ownership of the problem and say, I want to do something about it. This is what we are talking about. But if you cannot continue to enable a behavior that is hurting you and say, yeah, that's the way it is now, and then the thing is hurting you. And the thing is, see, your heart is your organ of love. Like, use dagger on that heart again. Eventually, one day, that heart will be so filled with resentment, it will not be able to love this person again. So that thing you think you are doing because you love the person is actually hurting the love. It's actually hurting the organ you need to love this person. So it is your responsibility to that person to say, babe, this thing you are doing is like a dagger in my heart. And you continue this way, this heart will find it hard to love you. I would love you to do something about it. And then they would, now if they continue to dagger your heart, then you say, it is now your responsibility to deal with the problem of the dagger in your heart. Yeah. So you see what I'm trying to say? You cannot just stay there. Your heart is, then your well-being, your own well-being is your responsibility. You should own it and say, I need to do something about my well-being. So it may look like a threat, but it's not really. You're trying to create an environment whereby love can thrive. That's what I'm pushing for.
Yeah, I mean, this is fantastic. A lot of things that you said, but one of the things I also want to bring to light is someone taking that definitive stance is also down to them understanding their identity. Because sometimes people get into a relationship because they want to feel validated. And when certain, things are happening, they don't want to speak up about it because they feel they might lose that relationship because that's where the validation
Yes.
comes from. So I think this is one of the challenges in certain relationship and, people taking that stance.
I think that's
yes.
one.
So that,
Okay, go on.
yes, go ahead.
I wanted to say
Okay,
that.
what I wanted. Gospel, go ahead. Go ahead, Gospel. I realize there's a delay. Go ahead.
You can tie it together.
Yeah.
I think that's an angle where someone is depending on the relationship to feel validated. But there are people who have constantly abused the privileges, the support. They don't want to take up responsibility. And the people in the relationship are in need because they think this is the right approach to stay in this relationship and hold it. My question is, if you've created environment for taking responsibility for change and it's not happening, they are hitting you at the core of your heart, what do you do?
The first question is, what is in your control? What is in your boundaries? Again, you see, this word boundaries, because I'm sure a lot of people came into this thinking boundaries is how you can control somebody and make somebody do something that you don't, or stop them from doing something you don't want. But boundaries are about staying, understanding what is in your control and making sure that you can work within that parameters and make things happen. So the first thing is what is in your control. Let me address the point that Tamara started and then speak to your point, Gospel. One of the fundamental principles in taking a stand in boundaries is that you must have strong support systems, because you can't do it alone. You are made for relationship. Your heart is made to love and receive love. So if this person, you need to put draw a strong line with, so that the person can hopefully start making changes and then and start working towards getting better. If there is the risk that the person may not, it increases, and yet you don't have a support system where your heart can receive love and care, you become afraid of taking that action, and you prefer to continue to work in that. So one of the things they teach and we tell people is build strong support systems, have sisterhoods and brotherhoods and friendships, and in church communities and communities like Relationship Builders Forum, where you are not standing all alone and trying to do this all by yourself, because it ain't gonna work. You don't have the willpower to be able to cut yourself off from the only source of love that you possibly could have. So you have to create a support system, or you have to get into support system. And that's one of the reasons why anti-boundary people, the first thing they do is to cut you off from support systems. They want you to don't go there, don't do this, cut you off from your family, cut you off from your friends, cut you off from, and then by the time you are all alone, because you are trying to please them, they now, you now realize you don't have any system. So that's the first thing. Then to your point, Gospel, is that the way I put it is, you owe it to yourself at some point, not at the beginning. So let's be very clear. So somebody now hear this boundaries message and say, go home. I don't like the way you talk to me, bye. Then you just walk away. No, that's not. that means you bastardize the message that we are trying to, because the idea of boundaries is to make relationships work, not to run, not to bail from relationships, right? It's to make the relationship work. So you don't come and hear something like this and then you just say, okay, let me go, and then you walk away. Because if you walk away, then you are countering the goal of the message. So it is to create, before you even come to removing yourself as an option, there are several other options that you can put. You can say, for example, we are going to, you can say, for example, that I'm going to take a few days, and go and stay with my friend for a few days. I'm not divorcing you, I'm not anything, but this action you are taking is hurting me so much. I just need a few days off with my friends, and I'll be back in like 4 or 5 days, and then you come back home, after that. Or you have a conversation with the person and say that these actions that you are taking, what I'm saying is create some consequence. It doesn't have to be a bazooka, it can be just something as, babe, I know you love me to be going out with you and acting as if things are okay with us, between our friends, and when you go out, if you keep doing this, the next couple of outings, I will not go with you because, I mean, this is just not. So you see, find something that will get the person to understand that there are specific things you want him or her to stop doing because they are affecting your relationship together. The first thing cannot be, I'm walking away. That means you actually don't even want a relationship to work. But the goal here is to make the relationship better, by identifying problems, creating owners for the problems, creating people to take responsibility. Somebody asked me a question. I'll make this last point. Is this not punishment? I said, no, it's not punishment. There's a difference between punishment and there's a big difference. Punishment is, even if the person changes, you still know, but this thing that you did, you must pay for it. So consequence simply means if there's a change in behavior, the consequences goes. Things are back to the way they should be. So let's help one another. That's my point.
Wow, that's a good point on punishment versus consequence. It's a very good point.
Yes.
Because one is inspired to inflict pain, whereas the other one is inspired by love and
to cause change.
Yes.
Yes. One is to inflict pain. You couldn't have defined it better. Punishment is inspired to inflict pain. Consequence is to produce change. That's it. And once the change comes, the consequence falls away.
Wow. I think you've addressed this point. Someone made a comment saying only the problem is spot on. However, in a marriage relationship, it does not always apply strictly. In most cases, abandonment may cause more damage. Patience and wisdom is necessary. And I think that was speaking to the point that you made just now.
Yeah.
Abandonment. It's not even about, I don't even call it abandonment. It's not about, it is the last option. In fact, I will not even bring it to the table until there's nothing else to bring. If everything else has been brought to the table and a change has not occurred, that's when we start talking about that. But if you're in a committed relationship, and the key is to ask yourself, is this person committed to the relationship? I think that's the question you are trying to probe at. Is this person committed to the relationship? And if you see a sign that there's commitment to the relationship, take it and work with it. Yes, take it and work with it. It's because as long as somebody is saying, I'm going to try, and guess what? We need patience. The person is going to trip 100 times, going to try and fall and try and fall. You two also have issues you are working with, and you are trying and falling too. So patience is key. The key is there a commitment? Don't just wake up and say, you are going away. Then that means you're, like I said to the group, the people who walk away from their relationship have walked away from it in their mind years before they physically walked away from it. So who are you trying to deceive? So it's happened years before. So let's be careful about just walking away. That's not what we are talking about here.
Fantastic. So I know we've addressed quite a lot.
Yeah, I was even thinking we would leave that. Go ahead.
Okay, go on.
We have another question that would be so important, especially for the singles. And I was thinking, maybe we can bring you again to discuss it, because I think we don't have enough time to deal with it, which is, what steps do we need to
Create boundaries.
follow
Before.
to create boundaries before marriage?
Yeah.
Because from what you said,
Yes.
the problem starts from the foundation. What are the steps? Maybe you just
Yes.
touch it. If you're happy, we can bring you again to explore this further.
I would love to come back again to explore it further, especially
Thank
for
you. Thank you for
it's,
that.
yes, especially amongst singles relationship, because that's where it begins. A lot of people allow so much in the name of trying to keep the relationship. We don't want to break it. You don't want to walk away. We don't want to do, and then you then enter marriage and then expect things to now be different. You have laid the bed in a certain way. You just have to sleep on that bed the way you've laid it. So from the beginning of your friendship and dating relationships, make sure that in a place where people are carrying equal load, people understand their responsibility. Remember, like I said, we came in by choice. I chose you, you chose me. Okay. And when I chose you, these are the responsibilities that I have now taken upon myself to carry. And you have the responsibility that you have not taken upon yourself to carry. You cannot be in a relationship where it's unbalanced, and you are now the one trying to stitch everything together and running around. So as a single person, before you get married, learn to say, no, I don't like when you act like this. I actually don't like it. I don't like when I send you a message, and if you're not going to respond immediately, although we need to define what immediately is, but if you're not going to respond immediately, you actually send the message and say, hey, babe, I got the message. As soon as I get some free time, I will send you a detailed response. I don't like when you don't do that. I don't like when you just ghost. I don't like when you ghost on me for 3 days and then you show up. You now start explaining to me why you ghosted for 3 days. When you act like this is how it makes me feel. This is what I want. Please, if you're in a relationship, learn to communicate this. And if the person blows up, the person says, what do you think? Why are you making a big deal about this, etc.? I'm sorry, but I've just explained to you what I don't like. And I've also told you what will make me happy. It's now your choice to do it or not do it. Don't, what's the word? Don't remove your
accommodate
boundaries.
what you
Don't
want.
remove your boundaries, and then the person will just run over the whole place, and then now you now come and be the one that will clean it up. And then when you even speak, they will now say you have a problem, So start to, and then so that's one. That's you setting your own limits and boundaries. Also, learn to tell people, I'm going to respect your no. So if I ask you and say, and that's the corollary, that's the opposite side of this. If I say, this thing you do is hurting me, and I'd like you to act in this way, and the person says, I'm not going to do it, that's a no. Okay, you don't want to do it. I've heard your no. Here's the door. Because I've respected your no, because I've told you what will make me happy. I've explained it to you, and you have said you don't want to do it. So learn to hear people's no, and learn to say it's okay. That's what you want to be. That's your choice. Practice it. Try and convince the person, actually, say, but this is why I want this, this is why I want this is why I care about this. And after you've tried to pursue them and convince the person says that they will not, start practicing these things. I say to people, it is what you practice in dating and courtship that you continue to practice in marriage. It does not suddenly switch a knot in somebody's head, and then all the things they were not doing, they now start doing it, and all the things they were doing, they now stop doing it. No. So you practice it in dating and courtship and continue to practice even in marriage. So that's what I mean. Start creating the boundary. Then I would say, read the books. Watch the YouTube clips. There's so much on it by Dr. Henry Cloud and John Townsend. I'm not the expert on this at all, but I tell you, I've read them, I've listened to them, and every time I come back and I say, okay, so you need to practice it better. Practice it because it's like a muscle. It's like a muscle. We are so eager to slide into another person's property, taking another person's problem, try to fix someone or fix their issue. Learn to hold back and say, I really love you, but babe, this is your problem to solve. I can help, and I'm here to help you. That's why I'm your friend. But this issue is really your problem to solve. Come up with solutions, start implementing them, and then I will see how I can jump in to assist you. That's what I mean by boundaries. See, I'm not gotten anything from this topic. This is actually what I mean by boundaries. It's by being able and willing not to jump in and then begin to solve something. Women, with all due apologies to the women, I call it the Messiah complex. They want to come in and be the Messiah, they want to save him, they want to deliver him, they want to, they just feel like they have all this ability to save a man. No, you don't. There is only one savior and you are not him. Yes, so just tell the person, start something to solve the problem. I'm here, I will help you as my friend, as your friend. But I'm not going to now come and carry what is your problem on my head.
Yeah.
And in this case, we are still dating or we are in courtship, we're not even married, so that's where I think we need to start from in courtship and dating as single and in relationship. Practice these things. Learn to hold yourself back and say, I want you to take care of the problem and I can step in to help you. Put limits on yourself.
Wow, amazing. I know someone has asked a question here, but I think his question is pretty much worded in a sense of, is there a way to anticipate something to avoid it? So can you set boundaries to avoid future problems? And I think you've answered most of it.
So set boundaries to avoid a future problem is to make your boundaries visible, is to be clear about, one of the things I'm beginning to learn to respect with people is people who are vocal with their difference of opinion with me. It's so important. Pastor, I heard what you said though, but I actually don't agree. And it's not being a problem. I don't know where we got this mind, open, be clear about this is where you stand. We are not also with love does not mean that, in fact, oneness does not mean that we are not different. It does not mean we are the same. Thank you. Even husband and wife for 50 years, we still have a difference of opinion. And it is love that says you can have a different opinion from me, but I'm still your friend. I still love you. I still care about you. I will still do you good. So it is critical that you are in a place where your boundaries are visible. I don't like you. I don't like we're in a relationship. I don't like that you send me these kinds of text messages. And then what is in it?
One more question before you dash off. We've got a question here that says, how do we navigate differences in personal goals and aspiration while still supporting and loving each other? I think this is a good question.
Again, I think it starts from airing the differences and understanding where you come from, and then coming up with a plan on how we can, at this particular moment, this is what we are going to work on, because there's limitations of time, limitations of resources, limitations of so many things, space. So we can only take one thing at a time. So even though what I want is different from what you want, let's agree that we'll take this for the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And then when we are done and we have gone to sense, we can now switch and come and follow yours. The most important thing you must not do is to hide your no. Don't hide your no. Voice it, because an internal no with an external yes makes the yes false. Yes,
Yeah.
makes it of no value. In fact, let me say this. When you are clear about your no's, it makes your yes more valuable. Because the day the person now says yes, you say, okay, thank you so much for this. I know that if it was not something you wanted, you would have heard it, you would have told me. So that you actually said yes means a lot to me, because we voice, the challenge, I don't know if I'm going to pray. The challenge is, how can we stay in love even when we don't agree? How can we still be lovers even when we don't agree? And we know that we don't agree. And we know that we don't agree. Not the one that I not agree, but I didn't voice it. I'm hiding it. And let me say one last, personally, gospel and Amara, this is an area that even I have been trying to grow in as a person, because I realized something. If I don't say something or don't communicate something, if my boundary is not visible, if something I don't like is not visible, and I covered it up because I don't want to upset this person, I don't want the person to be angry, I want the person to still like me or to still love me, what I've ended up doing is that I have created a scenario where the person likes someone that is not me.
True.
The real me, I have hidden the real me so that they can love something else that is not me. Yes. So if the person is happy with me, it's not really me they are happy with. It is the first thing I presented that they are happy with. The real me, they have not yet known because I have hidden it. So don't hide. I call it climbing the ladder of integrity. Because we don't get there one day. You're like, if I just say everything, so unveil yourself to people so that they will come to know the real you, and then still choose you, even though you are different from what they may have expected or wanted or thought. And then we can start building the relationship.
Wow.
You will definitely come again. Is it okay to ask one more question, because someone put a question
Yes.
that
I think it kind of touches on what you were saying, because it says, kindly address the impact of gifts to sway critical conversations on sensitive issues, which eventually crystallize to cause major and knotty issues, breaking homes.
So I think in this case, the person is talking about bringing gift before, at the time of bringing a difficult conversation. Yeah, see, I love these questions today because it shows that people want to grow and develop. I read something somewhere. It said marriage or relationships is not just about love, it's about growing up. And a lot of people don't realize, just want to love. No, when you come into a relationship, get ready to invest in your growth. And one of the areas of growth is learning how to have difficult conversation. Picking the time, picking the mood of the person, picking the words to use. I've had to have difficult conversation, and you know what? I went and I researched on Google how to present this type of conversation. No, I'm serious, because you don't want to break up the relationship. You want the relationship to work. The reason why it's called relationship builders, Abi, not relationship scatterers. We're not trying to scatter relationship. We are trying to build. So the whole purpose of this is to learn how to make it work.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so there are books. I have like 2 or 3 of them in my Kindle. It's called Having Difficult Conversations. It talks about picking. So let me give a classic mistake we make when we are trying to have difficult conversation. You always do this. You never do this. Or I feel like you don't like my family. It's not a feel. That's not a feeling. That's an accusation couched as a feeling. I feel like you don't like my family. No, that's So you just launched a nuclear missile into somebody's heart by accusing somebody and call it a feeling. It's not a feeling.
Yeah.
So we've got to learn how to. Maybe the person doesn't really like your family, but you've got to learn how to deliver such strong words with maturity, with diplomacy, and with clarity, so that the person can take the necessary action that you want. Because, and if they are interested in making the relationship work. So what this question is asking, there's room for that. You can use gifts, you can use timing, you can understand. The gifts obviously is to get the person in the mood where the difficult thing you're about to land can land smoothly and communicate. There's also something they call the sandwich method, where you say all the good things about the person, you deliver the bad news, and then you end with all the good things about the person. So it's called the sandwich method of communication. There's another one that talks about there's so many. The tools are out there. We need to go and develop, learn them, so we can use them to build our relationships.
Wow.
It's about growth.
That in itself will make for an interesting conversation. How to have difficult conversations in relationships.
Yes.
That's a very good one.
Yes.
Wow, it's been amazing. I have learned quite a lot today, and there has been some light bulb moments as well. And I kind of shared that with our viewers as well. So I just want to say thank you so much for taking out this time. It's been an enriching conversation for me, and I'm sure our viewers also can attest to that. There's been a lot of questions today, which speaks to that. And one of the things that stuck to me was that boundaries increases and enhances oneness in marriage.
Yes.
That was something that would stay with me. Because sometimes we look at boundaries as something that could deter, something that could destroy, something that could, widen the gap. But boundaries actually help to enhance and increase oneness in marriage. So that was good. Yeah.
To add to that, I think based on what you've said, boundaries allow us to exercise our freedom and then take responsibility for our actions.
Exactly.
And I think as parents, as people who are growing up, we need to start the process of exercising boundaries, and all of those. And I like the thing you said, it's not about people walking away from their relationship. The essence of walking boundaries is to enhance your love, to help you grow, to help your spouse to grow. Everyone understands their responsibility and everyone is accountable to each other. We are not babysitting. We see this even in sibling relationship, parent-side relationship. It's everybody. And we didn't have time to talk about some of those, So thank you very much for such a wonderful time we've spent with you. I don't know if you are happy to maybe share the grace, speak to someone who may be going through a tough marriage, difficult relationship, and boundary is the key problem there.
Yes, I would love to do that. Thank you for giving us this opportunity, Gospel. In your relationship, start practicing boundaries early. Don't wait, don't acquiesce and giving. And then when the thing has now got here, you now explode and say, okay, now I want to do boundaries. It doesn't work like that. Start early. Let people know that you want to hear their no, you want them to respect your no, you want to negotiate to a yes, you want to negotiate to a yes, getting to a yes. There's a book in business school that one of the best books I read is called Getting to Yes. If you can find the books on negotiation, I grew up thinking that negotiation was a zero-sum game. What I get is what you lose, and what you gain is what I lose. Until I read that book, and the book said, no, we can create win-win situations. So I just want to pray for people in various relationships now, marriages, dating, courtship. I'm asking God to create opportunities for win-win relationships. Some of these relationships, people are in relationships that are about to crater and collapse. Father, I'm just asking you that right now you will do only that which you can do. What may seem impossible for men is possible with you, Father God. You can bring healing. The whole purpose of bringing boundaries, freedom and responsibility. God put it so right. That's what it's all about. It's about love, freedom, and responsibility. Freedom and responsibility, and bringing a culture of honor, honoring people, honoring the people that are in our lives, honoring our wives, our spouses, our boyfriends, girlfriends, our fiancés. Lord, I'm just praying that there will be a release of honor. The Spirit of God is the Spirit of honor. Let that Spirit now begin to bring healing into homes and into relationships. This is about building relationships, not about scattering them. This is about creating greater oneness, not about separation and division. And so we are praying that, Father, the Spirit of love will teach us to understand how to practice this, to strengthen this our muscles of allowing people to own their problems and helping them and assisting them, of owning our own problems and asking for help when we need help, so that we can get out of the problems that we are facing. I just pray that, Lord, there will be healing and restoration in the homes, and everyone that has been hurt, whose heart has been damaged, the organ of their love that has been stabbed again and again with betrayal, with hurts and pain. We ask you that, Lord, that you would heal them and you will help them, that as they come to the understanding of how to practice these boundaries and these freedoms and these responsibilities, they will be able to enter into beautiful, meaningful relationships, because that was what you created us for. You created us to love and to receive love. That because that's who you are. You are the God that is love. May we receive love. May we experience love to the glory of your holy name. I release the grace of our Lord Jesus, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Spirit unto everyone that has attended this seminar and may watch it days and weeks and months and years later. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Thank you.
Wow. Wow.
Thank you. You are indeed a pastor. Thank you.
It's been amazing. It's been amazing. There's been a lot. I mean, people are saying thank you. Thank you for the enriching session. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Awesome session. So there's been a lot of people really thanking you for all that you've done today. So thank you, Pastor Keze, for gracing. I know you're a busy man. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay, then bye.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much. And for those who have just joined us, please, if this is your first time, kindly hit the subscribe button. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. Would love to have you as part of our community. So please, please, please follow us where you can, when you can, however you can. That would be great. Let us know how you're doing in your relationship, because we would love, love, love to hear from you. And I'm sure, I think we're signing off now. So
Definitely.
Thank you for being a part of this today. Until the next time, it's goodbye from us.